Good afternoon, everyone. We are truly privileged to have Mr. Nambi Narayanan with us today to deliver the seventh lecture in the series of Mind to Minds. S. Nambi Narayanan is an Indian scientist. As a senior official at the Indian Space Research Organization, he was in charge of the cryogenics division. In 1994, he was falsely charged with espionage and arrested. ISRO sources admit Narayanan would have been projected as one of the heroes of Chandrayaan 1 had he not been falsely accused as a spy by the Kerala police in November 1994, leading to his suspension from his job as head of ISRO's Liquid Propulsion Center and director of the just launched indigenous cryogenic engine project. The charges were dismissed as phony by the Central Bureau of Investigation in May 1996 and by the Supreme Court in April 1998. The National Human Rights Commission in September 1999 passed strictures against the government of Kerala for having tarnished Narayan's long and distinguished career in space research, apart from the physical and mental torture to which he and his family were subjected. In 2001, the National Human Rights Commission ordered the Kerala state government to pay him a compensation of 1 crore rupees. The Kerala High Court ordered a compensation amount of rupees 10 lakh to be paid to Nambi Narayanan based on an appeal from NHRC India in September 2012. Mr. Narayanan retired from ISRO in 2001. As we all celebrate the extraordinary success of GSLV D5 with indigenous cryogenic engines, let us take a moment to thank Mr. Nambi Narayanan, an unsung hero who made the feat possible while being the victim of unbelievable human tragedy. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable time to be with us and deliver this lecture. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Nambi Narayanan.
Mr. John Muthoot and my friends here, Devaki and others. I don't have an agenda to speak to you, but I know broadly what is that you expect from me, in the sense that probably you have a lot of questions. So you want to know what happened, why this has happened, and what was your ambition, how you started your career, what was your experience, why you are not leaving this entire spy case and then ask them to live in peace, and why are you continuing to fight, etc., etc. So what I would do, I would give you something of my mind, and probably some question answers. You can have some questions at the end of the lecture. Okay. I am basically a mechanical engineer. I studied from Anna University, and then I did my specialization in one of the prestigious Princeton University of USA, which is one of the Ivy League like Yale, Stanford, MIT, Caltech, and Princeton. I did chemical rocket propulsion as my specialization, and in that I did something on combustion instability. Instability itself is a complex subject, and combustion is another complex subject. So you have to combine both. That is instability in combustion. I was one among the, I don't know the exact details, but ICRPG, there is a combustion system. In that there were about some 26 people who were considered to be experts on the instability, and I happened to be one among them. And it was my finding with respect to the lunar module, the one which was sent to moon, where some instability problems were predicted by me. And then I had a career in ISRO for about 36 years. I started my work with Dr. Abdul Kalam. At that time he was called rocket engineer. So we had good opportunity to work together, fight together, and deliver certain goods to the nation. Kalam was primarily working on the solid rocket propulsion. I hope some of you may be knowing the difference between solid and liquid rocket. Basically, it is nothing but one uses fuel and oxidizer blended together. That is called solid rocket. Fuel and oxidizer kept in the form of a liquid. That is called liquid propulsion. The difference between the two comes in the way that the solids will have lesser energy compared to the liquids. Again, in the same liquid, you have a specialized system called cryogenic. And the cryogenic systems are having the highest energy as you see today. To give you an order of magnitude, the solids will have, we call it as the energy index, we call it as kilogram second per kilogram, meaning 1 kilogram of propellant will create what will be the impulse. So kilogram second per kilogram, if you cancel kilogram, then you get seconds. People can think what this impulse is. That is called specific impulse. Now for solids, the specific impulse will be in the range of 230, 240. For liquids, it will be in the range of 290 or 295. For cryogenic, it will be in the range of 400, 460. That is a kind of number. Now, basically, the cryogenics are used only in the deep space missions and launch vehicles for placing the satellite into the orbit. But otherwise, if you look at the rockets and missiles, both are basically same. One is going higher heights, another one is going higher distance. But generally, the propulsive force, that is what my specialization, is basically on both are same. Whether you call it as a missile or whether you call it as a launcher, we call it as launcher. Now, there is, in the ISRO's background, if you really look at it, Dr. Sarabhai, who started this in the year 1963, November 21st is the first rocket which took off from the Tumba beach. And he passed away during 1971, December 30th. And then Dr. Satish Dhawan took over the ISRO. After about 12 years, 1985, Professor Rao came in the picture. And then he went on up to 1994. Afterwards, okay, there are so many other chairmen. But basically, these are the three people who have molded today's ISRO. Sarabhai was a man who was dreaming about the space-related matters. Actually, he is a man of a lot of vision, a great visionary, who happened to die at a young age of 51 and in the Kovalam hotel. And then Dr. Satish Dhawan actually drew the blueprint for what is today's ISRO. What vehicles you should develop, like SLV-3 and then ASLV and then PSLV, GSLV, etc. All these explanations, I hope you know. SLV-3 is nothing but satellite launch vehicle. In ISRO, we normally abridge the long names into short names so that it is easy for us to, keep using it. GSLV means geosynchronous launch vehicle, and then PSLV means polar satellite launch vehicle, etc. And then Professor Rao is the one who executed this blueprint impeccably. Now afterwards, I am talking about after 1993-94 till date, what we have been doing is nothing but all those three stalwarts who have made everything possible. The only thing which is getting added to that is the cryogenic propulsion system. At that time itself it was started. I was a first project director for the cryogenic propulsion system. Incidentally, I was holding a lot of responsibilities when the so-called spy case broke out. I was the project director for the second and the fourth stages of the PSLV. Actually, I claim more credit for the second stage of PSLV, which behaves impeccably well without even a single failure till date, 37 launches. The most interesting part there is, that is one thing which I want to draw your attention. At least I have employed, we have built in reliability into the design itself. May not be possible to explain this whole thing here, but the name suggests what it is. we were imagining what are all the possible failures, how it can misbehave, how it can go bad, and then try to build in the so-called answers for that. That is what is called built-in reliability. Now, most interesting thing is we worked together with the French, and this is a joint development. And they are using it for their Ariane, and we are using it for our PSLV, GSLV. Now, the difference is afterwards they have gone much ahead, and we are still playing with the same rocket what we have developed during 1994. One thing very important for you here is that it is not the vision which matters, it is the kind of work you put in there. That is what matters. And like many of you might be thinking, or as you know, ISRO is an excellent organization. Don't you think so? Okay, I expected. It is an excellent organization, but nobody knows what are the kind of difficulties or problems we face in a day-to-day matter there in ISRO. I don't want to spend a lot of time in explaining the kind of problems what I faced or what others are likely to face. Incidentally, I am writing a book which will be released during the month of April or May, wherein I have touched upon the kind of problems we were facing. But one thing I will tell you, supposing if I have to put in effort which is equal to X to bring the so-called PSLV second stage, and the administrative, the other problems which I faced will be at least 10x. So that is the whole interesting part we have to see. Okay, so I have told you how ISRO started and what we have done so far, who are all the people behind it, and what was my role in the system. Now the cryogenic, which is very important, we were targeting to have it during the year, actually we signed an agreement with the Russians. This time it was a technology transfer agreement. We had an agreement with the Russians during the year 1991. As per that agreement, we should have got the cryogenic technology flying during 1998 or worst case scenario 1999. But what we could fly was during 2012. And what we are planning to have the so-called Mark 3 is going to be 2017. So approximate delay is in the order of about 15 to 16 years. Now that is the result of the breakage of the Russian contract, or that is the result of the spy case. So this is broadly will give you an idea how whole thing worked in that manner. But for that, we would have launched in 1999, probably. Now here, on one hand, you may look at the entire ISRO episode as a scientific feat. But actually, ISRO has primarily two goals. One goal is to have self-sufficiency. You must be able to do what you want. For example, your resource management, remote sensing, watchdog functions, and then telecommunication, telephony, and then television, and all kinds of things are being done with our satellites. That means we don't have to depend upon others. We can do it ourselves. Now, there are other aspects also. You can't expect somebody to launch whatever you want using their launch vehicles. Supposing if I want to put a fine camera to look what is happening on the border, somebody may not like to launch it for you. Now here, if you have your own vehicle, you will be able to launch it and then use it, which we are doing it so far. Many things which are not published are probably due to this kind of satellite applications. Now second aim actually is, where I was trying to play a major role, is a commercial venture. Muthoot is one of the very big business organizations. You have a lot of industries, including hospitality, finance, so on and so forth. But I'll tell you, in the year 94, the space business, on account of the geosynchronous launch vehicle itself alone, is in the order of about $300 billion. You should know this number, very mind-boggling. $300 billion. I don't know the number of ciphers you have to put in, convert it into rupees. But the most important point is, there are only two countries in the world who are sharing it. One is France, another one is USA. Now, suppose we would have become a space power, we would have been the third country to use that. Another interesting factor here, which is a most important factor, is our cost is roughly 1/3 of their cost. If they charge $96,000 per kg in the geosynchronous orbit, ours will be $35,000. So I leave the rest to your imagination. So what will be the kind of business involved, which is possible only with the cryogenic. Now you have three levels. One is your sounding rockets, wherein you do some experiments, scientific experiments in the upper atmosphere. Honestly, I have nothing to do with that, excepting that if somebody tells me to what height they want to go with what payload, I will help them. But what do they do there is their lookout. Now next is your application satellites. You have polar, you have low Earth, near Earth, far Earth, geosynchronous, this kind of orbits, where also the satellites part of it is somebody else's. Now how to reach that height precisely? That is where we come in the picture. I come in the picture. Now third one is the outer space. Now as I told you, those three stalwarts, I don't think they have planned anything with respect to the outer space. Or at that time frame, probably it was a little too much to think of outer space explorations. Now it is a time that you can think what you can do with respect to outer space. You must have read in the papers SpaceX. I don't know whether you have read those kind of things. These are commercial organizations. They are trying to arrange something like they take people to moon and then go around the moon and then come back and then drop you. It is like a touring, it's an excursion kind of a thing. But also I am sure that you must have read the recent finding of some 6 or 7 planets wherein it is likely that life may exist. This is what one very interesting thing as far as the outer space is concerned. As it goes, we spoil the trees, we spoil the sand, we spoil the rivers, we spoil even mountains. Now what happens? Finally you get into, today this is predicted that you will have a very hot summer awaiting you, the change of climate. These are all due to man-made, not nature's gain. Now if it continues, one day we will become non-existent in the world. So what should happen is, this answer lies that you have to find out some other planet where life can exist. Now this recent finding, of course you should understand, I think that if you convert that into the light years distance, I think it will take about 30 years for you to reach there in our real time. So if you are at the age of 10, if you start traveling, you can reach there when you reach 40. So what I feel is the greatest challenge is finding out a high energy propulsion system which will cross this kind of a barrier. That is, you must be able to reach at a very high altitude, at a very high speed, and that is where the real challenge of the propulsion system experts are lying there. So future, if I'm not talking about tomorrow, I'm talking maybe 100 years from now or maybe more, that the future of the space journey is going to be decided upon the fact that whether you are an expert in the propulsion system. So we as propulsion engineers, we always used to claim, like anybody else, who claims a mechanical engineer is the best engineering subject, like somebody who is doing civil, they will say the civil is the best. Like that, being a propulsion specialist, I say that is where the whole key lies, where whether to how to reach that altitude and that kind of a thing. Now, having said that, I just want to share something which I have already indicated to you in indirect language, what really was behind the so-called spy case. I don't think that I need to elaborate it. But the whole thing is that nobody likes another country to develop certain systems which are going to be commercially competitive. So that is one thing which you must bear it in mind. But here, outwardly, if you look at it, they will say they want to bring down one chief minister. That is where the so-called Charak case took place. Or somebody may say that it is a perversion of some circle inspector which has led to this. Or somebody else can say that it is because of print media baron. He wanted to take care of his police revenge. All kinds of stories are going around. Maybe true, most of them, or maybe partially true. But what is not told or what is not understood is the other story which I told you. Somebody comes there, somebody goes back. We don't know really what is the whole thing takes place. Now anyway, the so-called spy case has ended, and the CBI has closed it by saying that it is a false case. I am not mincing the words, I am quoting the same words. It's a false case, meaning it is a fabricated case. Of course, nobody wants to know who fabricated, for what purpose fabricated is not yet answered, but still, it is a false case. And then it has also named some people who were non-professional or unethical or whatever is behind it, careless, etc., etc. Now, what I am trying to do right now is that whatever CBI has named, those people must be punished for what they have done. Now that is the final case. Actually what happened, that recommendation of the CBI was not acceptable to the government of Kerala, but government didn't want to take action against them. But I challenged that in the court of law, and the single bench gave a verdict in my favor, and government of Kerala accepted it. But affected individual went on and the appeal was in his favor. Now there is a Supreme Court appeal which is pending. Maybe you will know the result of it in about a month's time. But my aim there was only one. If you have made a mistake, if you have made an error, or you have committed a crime, whatever you call it, I think you should be punished, or at least you should be apologetic about it. You should at least say that I am sorry it has happened. I am sorry, I am wrong. If not, you have to face the consequences. That is the law of the land. So that is what is going on, and that is what my crusade is so far. I could have kept quiet like anybody else. All the other people are all just sleeping, taking life easy. But I am making my life more difficult financially, on the energy level, so many things. You can't. It is very difficult to manage certain things in our country's system. The system is like that. You cannot help it. So that is where the whole case goes. That is what, as far as the spy case is concerned. Now I think it's going to be 1 o'clock. So I will spend some time in answering some questions from the people. Anybody can feel free to ask me any question. I am not worried about it. I don't worry about highly embarrassing or anything like that. I will tell the truth.
Why is it that the best engineers are able to do the best in other countries, like Indian engineers going to US, working in NASA and other places, producing the best results, and the same people are not able to do, or maybe the same category, in the capacity is not able to do that kind of, achieve that kind of result in India? Is it a budget constraint or it is something else?
No, I first of all do not agree with your statement. I think whether I was working for NASA incidentally. Okay, then I came here. Now my point is, whether in USA or in France or in India, a good engineer is a good engineer. He will do it. For example, you readily agree, ISRO is doing a good job. So these are the people here also we are doing it. But to answer your question, I'll tell you something. For example, you take Japan. It's a small country. 80% of Japan is having mountains. I don't think that they have much of resource. But in economy, if you take it, they are the best country in the world. How is it possible? Take Sweden, take Switzerland. I don't think they make even, they cultivate cocoa in their country, but the best chocolates come from Switzerland. Or for that matter, they work only for 4 months a year, but milk products are best in Switzerland. Now, I don't think that a country's output is not dependent on its age or the so-called poor. If age is a criteria, ourselves and Egypt should have been the richest country in the world, whereas we are not. There, the difference is, so many factors are there. I'll try to tell you some of the factors which I feel, which is answering your question. We do not dedicate ourselves to the duty in this particular system. For example, I'll ask you, punctuality. I'm not sure about this gathering here. Ask this question to you, how many of you are punctual when you are attending the office? That will give you the answer, one aspect. Another one is, are you respecting your job? Number 2, are you dedicated to your job? Do you feel proud of your job? Do you love your job? Now, most of us in one way or other, if you are true to answer this question, you will find the answer which will give you the answer for what you are asking for. So my point is, it is not, see, we should understand very clearly. For example, something bad happens, okay? We talk about it for some time, then let it be, we forget about it. Because after all, after some time, the entire country will accept it, or nobody will bother about it. Take so-called spy case itself. How many of you recall, other than those little age group of 50, how many of you recall what really happened? Is it a burning question in your mind? Answer that question. So, the engineers are working very good, whether it is in USA or here. In fact, you will be finding it very interesting. I was in Princeton. We were 22 students in the aerospace and mechanical sciences. Only one is an American. All the other 21 are from different countries. Of course, I was only Indian, but you have people from Germany, Italy, China, etc. So I am trying to impress you that we go there because we get more salary and we get a better environment. That is all the reason. But whether it is in USA or whether it is in India, we work there. No problem. I am okay. Come on.
What is your biggest takeaway from your professional life in ISRO, and what is your biggest regret about your professional life in ISRO?
The regret, I don't know really, but let me tell you. I was offered a citizenship in US, which I turned it down. And that is the biggest regret I had after the occurrence of this spy case. Now, what is the other question? What is the biggest?
Takeaway from your professional life.
Okay, I was liked by Dr. Sarabhai, Dr. Dhawan, and then Mr. Rao. These three chairmen gave me all their support. And I am very happy and proud to say, without my contribution, your PSLV doesn't exist. Your Chandra and Mangalyan won't be there. So, but for that, what is the price I have to pay, you must remember. See, the price is heavy.
So you said ISRO, one of the key agenda for ISRO is a self-sufficiency or a self-reliance. What we are doing in terms of quantum platforms and technology, labs also. Where are we today when we have a lot of positive news coming out, advancing of technology? How self-sufficient are we?
Very good question. Actually, it's a question which I was hoping to have from you. We are very close to meeting all our requirements, very close. In the sense, if the Mark 3, GSLV Mark 3 goes during the month of April, next month, in terms of capability, we would have reached 4 tons class of geosynchronous satellites, which will be meeting all your requirements which you are talking about. Right now, what we are using is only a 3-ton class. So, 4 tons should meet all your requirements, including the defense requirements, including your transmission TV, etc., etc. Now, we can also commercially take care. That is self-sufficiency from point of view. But I think that game should not stop there. If we are really meaning, see, some of you may ask this question. Oh, we have been, on one hand we have slums, on one hand we have poverty, and on one hand we don't have drinking water. What is the use of 104 satellites, etc.? This is a very natural question. Yes, it is there. But please understand, suppose if we would have made this as a commercial venture, which we are trying to, then the money generated from there would help you to meet your, what do you call, so-called drinking water problem or so many other problems. So that way we will be, I think we should go commercial. According to me, that is where the money is. Nobody should say ISRO is spending money from the taxpayers' money. We are soon going to reach a situation where ISRO will generate its own money and meet all the requirements. Whatever we have spent for the past 50 years, if everything goes well, we can take it back in 5 years. And then we can feed you back the money which you are otherwise in need of.
You are not making aircraft engines.
Yeah.
Maybe Rolls-Royce or GE or whatever company. But is it a problem with the metallurgy that we are not experts in that, which means that the self-sufficiency can never be reached by any country? Because I read that Americans import something from Russia to fire their rockets. So the dependency can never be eliminated, or for example in metallurgy, are we lagging behind so that we don't have the right kind of steel to make the jet engines?
I am highly embarrassed to answer this question, but I will answer. We have the so-called second stage of PSLV, for which I was a project director. Every material which goes in there are indigenous material. Every material. Why? Because I assumed that there will be embargo tomorrow or day after. So when we started realizing it, we started doing it. All kinds of funny materials. I don't want to say HS25, KC22WN, all kinds of things. These are all high temperature materials, special materials. The problem we had at that time was our requirement was a small quantity. You will be surprised to know the Midani, our own Government of India's metallurgical company, is capable of making any metal which you want. The only thing is, excuse me, I'll just put it in the flight mode. Yeah. The only thing is, you should make them to do the job. You should make them to do the job, otherwise they won't do it. Now, answering your question, I'll give you some statement. Rocket engine is much more complicated than an aircraft. Rocket engine uses much more exotic alloys and materials than an aircraft. And rocket engines are more sophisticated and complex in nature, and reliability is very high, very highly required. Factor of safety is very important, I will tell you. Factor of safety are minimal in rockets. We have to work because we can't carry dead weight. So supposing if a vessel, if a tank works on 100 bars, what we will allow to do in rocketry is 1%. Whereas in aircraft you can have 10, 15, 20%. In spite of that, I can also add the country which is very, very inferior in all terms and technologies, Brazil. Okay, they were, begging for some technology which we didn't give anyway at that time. So they have made a successful aircraft which is called Emperor. Now, see, these are truths. But in spite of that, we are not able to make an aircraft. I think you should find the answer yourself.
Does China come back to India on
Therefore, they are ahead of us. See, in the interest of history, if you really look at it, the whole rocketry comes only from Germans. The so-called Adolf Hitler, in some remote mountain area, it is called Peenemünde, he started this V2 rocket. The V2 rocket is the one which he was hoping to use it against England, against the Allied forces. Unfortunately or fortunately, he couldn't succeed. But that is the father of all the rockets which we are talking about. So after the war, the prisoners of war were shared by the Americans and the Russians. They are the Germans. Okay, so those are the Germans who went there and then started doing rocket for both of them. So they both started same. In fact, I had a good friend by name Professor Dadio. And Dadio was a German who was working in Pinamonte. I went there actually. I wanted to see the facility and how they have used it, etc. So from him only I am telling you the story. So it started with the Americans and the Russians. Now China was always dependent upon Russia for everything, including aircrafts, space related activities, everything. And Japan was always dependent on America. So China and Russia, you can put them in one bracket, and the Americans and the Japan you can put in another market. And these French fellows, they had not prisoners of war. Some of the Germans who were married to the French girls and settled in France, so they were making rockets, but they were a little inferior. So this is how the whole centering started. But then afterwards, today's world scenario is China is no more dependent on Russia. Of course, Japan still dependent on the Americans, and the French evaluates himself as a very big force. And actually, the world's best aeronautical engineers are available in France. You can see their Concorde aircraft, you can see their Airbus, you can see their almost the Ariane vehicles are very superior. So that way, if you look at it, China is ahead of you. I don't know for sure because I have no access to the Chinese in the Google or in any published information. But I think they are working very good on the outer space, deeper space, space stations, and so on and so forth. See, one thing is very important. You must understand that it is an expensive proposition. Any space exploration is an expensive proposition. And now, why NASA is National Aeronautic Americans, and then ESA is European Space Agency. They have made a company using 13 countries, even a small fellow like Belgium or a Spain who good for nothing. All kind of fellows join together, make that ESA, primarily because they don't want these fellows to go out. All their satellite requirements must be met with here. 0.5%, 1% contribution. Now, I think we should have an ESA, Asian Space Agency. Here, we should combine Russians, Chinese, and Japan, and ourselves. It's not that we are not non-comparable, we are comparable. Basic question is there must be a will at the political level. So you may ask a question, will Japan, we can work with them? Why not? See, one day or other, things are going to be, see, even Americans can't afford to have their own expenses to be met with by the space work. They have now slowed down. After their Apollo missions, I think it's going to be so many years. Now they are sharing with the international space stations and all, so on and so forth. So I have a feeling, it was one of my dreams, that we should have an ESA. Maybe that kind of a work will help you to work and go friendly and closer to China. Probably. See, what is the difference between these two countries? Nothing. Basically, if you look at it, all international borders, if you find yourself really apply your mind, there's nothing. It can be between India and Pakistan. So, in other words, what I am trying to say is this depends on the political willpower and a matured outlook. It all depends.
Let's say beautiful motivation. Tough times never last, but tough people. But it's easier said than done. But you are a classy example of that. Can you explain to us how you kept yourself motivated in carrying on this?
A very difficult question to answer, also it will take a lot of time, but let me tell you one thing. I had a fascination for space related activities. When I did my final year engineering, I was choosing a project work which is called axial flow compressor. So generally in engineering, 2 or 3 students join together and make a project. Either they do a study or they, but long back, I was very particular that I should be a loner. I want to do it alone. And I not only wanted to design, fabricate it, assemble it, test it, all kinds of things. It was a full 1 year time frame. My professor told me, Kodan Raman, that it is going to be difficult, it is going to be impossible. You can't do all these things in 1 year, as well as I was more or less a rank holder, likely to get a rank in the final year. So both put together you will find it difficult. That is what he told. So I told to myself, if it is that impossible, let me prove that it is possible. So I worked for that and I proved it was possible. But my rank, I didn't get first rank, I got second rank. That's okay. But the point is that project work was considered to be one of the best for so many years to come. That helped me to get admission both in Caltech as well as in Prince. So that's why whenever I go to engineering colleges, here today the situation is very, very horrible. The engineering students do not know the horrible, I don't want to say more than that. It is really horrible. So if the project work, if they have to do, that is what is going to, so after all when you come out of the engineering college, you can't call yourself as an engineer. You study so many subjects, applied thermodynamics, theory of machines, applied mechanics, mathematics, so on and so forth. But putting everything together is your project work. But today they pay 2,000 rupees, get a project work, get it chopped out, then you get your degree. So that is where an engineer really gets shaped to an engineer. Anyway, to answer your question, actually I feel I am not from a very affluent family. I am from a very mediocre family. My father was a businessman and he had a developed knowledge. He was doing business in copra, kaya and those kind of things. Of course, I find him as very intelligent because he imported copra from Ceylon long back, 1920s or 1930s, to Kerala. Because in Kerala you get a lot of coconut. So when I became on my own, I didn't have all the facilities like what the students today have. But I had the willpower and I wanted to do something on this space. To suit that work, I got a job here. And of course I should say that I got a helping hand from Dr. Saravai and then Professor Sadish Dhawan, etc. But one thing I want to tell you, which before I forget, I wanted to give you that impression. I don't know how many of you know the names of Dr. Brahm Prakash, for example, Dr. Srinivasan, Dr. Jayamani. Everybody knows the name of Kalam, correct? Why? Because after Kalam became the president, his name is known. Till then, I don't think that anybody knew him as a man of missile or something like that. I think that is a wrong attitude. It is not Kalam alone. This is something wrong with this country to substantiate your answer. Many of us do not work for money. If money is what matters, then that is a different question. All of you, including all of you sitting here, over and above the money, what you need is a recognition. Somebody should say that, oh, you have done a good job, it's nice, nobody else would have done it, something like that. Now here, so many engineers, see today we have Dr. Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, VSS, a center named after him, Sadish Dhawan Space Center, that is a launch. Barring these two names, is it true that in ISRO you didn't have any other engineer, any other scientist? And why you don't know Dr. Brahm Prakash? Dr. Brahm Prakash is a world-renowned metallurgist who had put everything in order with respect to space-related matter. He was director of VSSC. See, these are the names which should get into our textbooks. How do you get an inspiration? You should say, this is Brahm Prakash, this is Srinivasan, this is Jayamani. So this is what is lacking here. So in Russia when I went, at the entrance itself, you will find in each center, I visited almost all the centers, in each center you will find a big board with bronze figures. Names will be there, at least about some 50 names or 70 names. A brief biodata of that person. Sometimes it may be a worker there, sometimes it may be an engineer there. So I just want to record here that I have nothing to do with you, but I will tell you this is one of the drawbacks in our system, that we should recognize the services of these people. I'll tell you, some of them really had sacrificed quite a bit. For us, in all fairness, let me tell you, many of us did not have any holidays or any. Actually, my wife didn't divorce me because we were after marriage. I took. Friday was my marriage, and Saturday, Sunday I took off. Afterwards, the next day, Monday, I got to my work, and we are yet to go on a honeymoon. So I am saying that this is true with almost all the people who have dedicated themselves. You are seeing only the result of it. See, Aryabhatta, Bhaskara onwards, today's Mark 3. So actually Mark 3, I'm telling you this, 104 satellites is one feat. But the Mark 3, I am eagerly waiting for the result of that. Because there, the cryogenic is our own. We are talking about technology also. See, technology, I'll tell you, technology, we are talking about the transfer of technology. So one of the charge sheets given to me or talked about is I have transferred the technology. See, technology means what? Know-how. It's not making tea. Even tea, if I give you the technology, you will not make the same tea. You will make something different. What we are talking is it's not the know-how, it's a know-why. Many people do not understand this. If you talk about the so-called technology, I had all the drawings relating to the cryogenic systems way back in 1972-73. But so many years have passed. How many years? 50 years have passed roughly. We still do not have a cryogenic technology. See, it is not. So these people who charged the so-called spy work did not do a damn thing about technology. They don't know anything. They just that itself shows that it is fabrication. Backbenchers are not interested in asking questions.
Where do India stand as far as cryogenic technology is concerned? Are we still dependent on Russia or are we?
No. We are not dependent on Russia.
In 2004, Russia was given an embargo not to supply the cryogenic.
No. There's no. The embargo doesn't have. How can I put an embargo on your prerogative to do business here in Muthoot? I have nothing to do with that. So I can't put an embargo. Russians have nothing to do with us. It is our own technology. See, there are, as far as, okay, to address your question, cryogenic technology is our own. We are not dependent upon anybody. Particularly in the Mark III C-25 is our own technology. You know, we can be proud of it happily. No embargo.
But you are mentioning about some technology transfer from Russia.
At that time, the contract was for a technology transfer. That was broken. 91, I signed the contract. I was a signatory to that contract. 94, when this spy case broke out, that contract actually was a prelude. They went back. The Russians went back. Who were our friends actually? They went back and then said they used a clause what is called force majeure. I am sure that most of you must be knowing this. Reasons beyond their control. And I know what is the reason, but still, it was reasons beyond their control. They went back. The contract was redrafted, and it was only the material, but not the technology. But so that was broken. But still, we made the KVD-1 is the name of the engine. We used that knowledge, and we made that was one which was flown some 2 years back. But that was one of the best engines you can think of. Highest specific impulse, very high energy level. But it will not meet your Fortin requirement. It's a smaller. Now the C-25 is a bigger class. And of course, somebody picks it up from this point onwards, you can go higher. Yes.
Bad experience to your life?
No, you are asking an obvious question.
Sir, no. It's not ended. It started. See, you have come out with all these difficulties, and how you made it happen.
Suppose there is any chance such cases repeat may come in the future? How do you advise? Do you advise how one can come out this with your experience?
This is a unique case where there was a ploy, there was a conspiracy. So I don't think that this can repeat. And even if somebody who has done this wants to repeat it, I'll tell you one thing. The tough time I have given to them in all the courts will never dare to go nearer to such thing to happen once again.
How you defend it? How you defend it? What was your mind?
What was?
What was your feeling when the case come up?
I was shocked like anybody else. I did not know in the beginning itself, I did not know why it is happening. Because the story goes around was they wanted to bring down Karnagaran and they wanted to, do this, that. But I never, afterwards, with respect to time, I was able to put piece by piece things together. Then I was, for example, my house was not raided before my arrest. My office was not raided before my arrest. So what do you conclude? And the day I was arrested, November 30th, 1994, on the same day you are recommending this to be transferred to CBI. So there's so many things are there. So you can easily make out that there is a ploy behind it.
Anybody who supported you during those days?
To begin with, not Sarabhai would have supported, but he was no more. But there are other people, they were all wonderstruck. But then all the chairman ISRO, namely Professor Dhawan, Professor Rao, T.N. Seshan, Professor Chandrasekhar, Narasimha, Rodam Narasimha, and then Yashpal, all people came in my support in a very, very highly, nicely drafted open letter, just published in all the papers.
Okay.
But it was late. See, to be very frank with you, these people should have come to my support on day one. But they didn't. But they came little late. That's okay. You can't expect anything better than that, right?
Have you made your mind to define it?
No, easy. It is very, very, very easy. If supposing you were put into a very difficult situation, you are going in a highway or in a God-forsaken path that your vehicle became a broke down, and that area has a lot of wild animals, and you are in the night. What will you do? You will face it. You know, you will learn to face it. But it depends. Supposing by nature, if you are a very fragile fellow and if you are scared to death, then before an animal comes, you will die. That is a different question. Anyway, I faced it because very difficult, actually very difficult to explain. But they are trying to make a movie in that story. So maybe they will try to picturize it properly, I hope.
What is the one objective you have now in your life? To get the
A very, very simple objective. I want those people who have done this crime should be punished. This is one.
that will give you happiness.
Not that, to be very frank, I'll tell you very frankly, you have asked a nice question. It won't give me happiness. I mean it. But I'll be satisfied. And the main purpose is not to put them into difficulty. The main purpose is to tell others, if you behave like this, you will also go behind bars. That is what my real aim is. But I'll tell you, to start with, I was very ferocious. As you rightly said, I would have been very happy if these fellows meet with some kind of... Today, age and time and various things made me... Actually, the one criminal who has done this came and, asked apology and then said, I'm sorry, etc. I was really not... I became sad too. He started crying, all kinds of things. He came with his wife and then... I asked him only one thing, you say this in front of a camera. Let all the television channels say this. I will withdraw all the cases. No, he expressed his difficulty because he felt that if he does it, then he won't be able to go alive to his home. So, that is...
According to you, what was the motive behind this?
See, actually one motive which I'll tell you, this is something very difficult to explain. I know a crime has taken place. I know some people who are behind it. Now, who should explain the motive? In fact, this is one question which I am asking to, even in the final hearing, I wanted to put this as one of the prayers. But my lawyers are advising me that you will be dragging it too much. Now, I can only speculate the motives. I cannot say for sure that this is the motive. I was an engineer, I was made as a lawyer because of this requirement. I don't want to become an astrologer.
You didn't tell any of your trauma which you went through. You explained that to me once.
Yeah, I think sometimes, in a meeting like this, it is better to have some hilarious moments rather than talking about the bad moments. I think everybody is happy. Some of your faces show some anxiety, and then, I think you are taking it light-hearted. That was my aim. When you, supposing if I start explaining all the mill I have gone through, then at the end of it, I think some of you will feel very sad. I don't want that, to see you sad.
How do you take the media's role as scammers? Because you treat them to be importing fraudulent without proper study, or what advice would you give to media houses in cases of scam?
No, actually, the media, if you really look at it, the vernacular media, namely the Malayalam media, alone did a story of all kinds of things. The national media did not do anything. And I came from the jail on January 19. 13th of January, one Ananda Parthasarathi of the Hindu wrote an article in Between You and Me, what I am talking now. That means even before I came out of the jail, even before CBI closed its, opened its page, Ananda Parthasarathi is an engineer, he worked in DRDL, and he was a reporter there. I think he is somewhere in Bangalore or somewhere. He is the one who wrote this, that one day the entire world will know that this is a framed up case. Like that he wrote, okay. So the media problem is the following. The vernacular media, major problem is you don't have specialized reporters. Suppose you take sports, I don't think there is a sports reporter in any of the magazines, any of the newspapers. Or science, you don't have any. So these people, like the investigating officers, you see, I'll tell you, the difference, you will understand it very easily. The so-called fabrication, when it was going on, the Kerala police and the IB, they were interrogating me. And the fellow is not able to speak proper English. And he's asking, what happened to that module? I was just asking him, what module? Tell me what happened to that module. Did you not smuggle it out? Somebody has told him there is a pressure module or there is a command module. Now this fellow caught hold of that and then he is asking that question. Now I can tell you also he doesn't understand the difference between solid propulsion, liquid propulsion, cryogenic, nothing he knows. Now he is the one who is investigating, so how do you like it? Now this is the same thing with respect to the press also. So press did not know. Later, all of them, I will tell you one thing about the press. Almost all of them, let it be Manorama's Chan Mundakayam, or you take any of the leading newspapers, they all felt very sad about what they wrote. That's why I have not even sued the reporters. I have not even sued the newspapers for that. But I can't take the same attitude for the people who have done this crime to me, the police. You see, supposing something happens in your home, somebody broke and got into your house and then take away something or some atrocities are that, you go to the police, correct? Now if the police themselves play this, if they are coming the robbers, they become the robbers, what do you do? That is where the problem goes. Press reporters are just, see, we used to say in Malayalam, oru kodi kalam, oru rendu kuppi undengil endu venengilum ezhudam. That is the kind of situation. Adalla. Yes, sir.
Your contribution is towards transcending the barriers of time or space, or both time and space.
No, I didn't get your question.
Your contribution is towards transcending the barriers of time or space, or both time and space.
No,
How do you-
as on today, today you have some PSLV flying as a workhorse engine, correct? It is working well, and for that is what a module is. This module will help you for some more time to come. Now I don't know how long it will exist, how long it will be an inevitable thing. I have nothing to do with your Newton's theory. I am a scientist who is a specialist on propulsion. Many times when we go from an ISRO, they will ask you what is ionosphere, I don't know a damn about it. I simply say, for me it is, I just look up and down and then say, look, ask me anything on C-star efficiency, nozzle, that kind of a thing. Yeah. Somebody was there, yeah.
It's an unrelated question. One of my uncle, while explaining his story, told me something regarding a Sputnik that Russia sent around the world. That took around 14 days to cover the entire world. And the entire world was amazed, about that technology. He also told me that this technology actually arrived from India. And do you know anything about it? I searched over the net and I could not find anything. So,
Do you know what?
do you know anything about this?
Sputnik is long back, the Russians spent, it's a low Earth orbit satellite.
He mentioned to me that it was an Indian idea, the technology behind that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. See, of course, the idea is global. See, once you understand, see, look, common sense tells you that you look at from a height, you can look at bigger area, correct? That is the kind of thing. So they wanted to get out of the gravitational pull, and they wanted to see. I don't think that your Indian. See, many times we quote things from Mahabharata, all kinds of epics, but that suits you. That's it. They say Ravana was carrying Sita through Pushpaka Vimanam. So that is one thing you can accept is that somebody who lived long back had an idea of flying. Yeah, at least that much you can give them the credit.
The case has got any impact on the functioning of ISRO even after that?
I think so. See, earlier, these people used to take reports back home while they were coming. 1 hour travel, they will be reading something on the bus or on the car. And people will stay overtime in the library and then take out. So we have a system where we keep some reference reports not to be given outside. So they stay there and then read. After this, because the so-called investigators went there and they got hold of each engineer asking how many books you have drawn from the library, how many reports you have drawn from the library, have you read all those things, have you copied them, how many copies you have made. These fellows got scared. Afterwards, these fellows do not spend that much time or they do not draw that many reports. To that extent, there was a delaying effect, yes.
Is it affecting the function?
At that time, yes. I don't know about now. Now I am retired more than 16 years back. So, I don't know now. But there could be some delay. See, I'll tell you one thing. When you work in a fearless atmosphere, you do anything, right? But supposing if somebody is doing this kind of a thing, of course there used to be a dialogue. If this can happen to Nambi Narayanan, this can happen to me, this can happen to him, this can happen to so and so, like that it goes. So, if there are no other questions, okay. So I just want to, anybody else has, okay. So I just want to thank all of you for having given me an opportunity to share with you. And it is a good thing. I enjoyed it myself rather than not sitting on the other side, sitting on this side. At least I have an attentive people who were listening to me with some, importance. That was most interesting. So you have an excellent team of people who are working for you. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Now I request our CMD to hand over the memento to Mr. Nambi Narayanan as a token of gratitude.
Dear sir, on behalf of the Muthoot Pappachan group, I'm extremely grateful to you having come over here and spent your valuable time with us. In fact, you have given us so many messages in this short time, it would be difficult for me to recollect all of them, but right from punctuality to everything, you have covered a lot many issues that we need to practice in our life. Thank you very much for this wonderful session you had with us, and despite all the trauma that you went through, you made us laugh through all of it. Thank you very much, sir.